Welcome to the KPBS Summer Music Series. He's written songs for Eric Clapton, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Tom Petty. We hear from Cale about his passion for music, not the spotlight. Plus,
say I have a Western heart, wait until the day turns dark.
songwriter Alfred Howard and his mother Marion share their ambitious 100-song project that includes a painting for each song. That's next.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more, Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.
Welcome to the KPBS Summer Music Series, San Diego's own music discovery podcast that features encore presentations of our best in-studio performances and interviews, celebrating our diverse music scene and beyond. I'm your host, Kurt Kohnen. In these tumultuous times of protesting racial inequality, living through a global pandemic, and the growing economic hardships, the arts have kept us sane with entertainment that helps us escape this current reality. Songwriter Alfred Howard and painter Maureen Howard, his mother, joined Alison St John to talk about their new multimedia project and how to stay inspired through hard times. We begin with their first song from the project, We All Breathe the Same Air, by Al Howard, performed by Nathan Moore.
An ocean of tears can't undo the embers of a moment in amber. We all will remember when the wind blew in a tempest of tempers and the truth was exposed to the light. We all breathe the same air, and I feel ashamed. Here only love can pull us through the dark. And if it's one, it's everyone. Someone's daughter, someone's son. Etch their name into my breaking heart.
That was Al Howard's song, We All Breathe the Same Air, performed by Nathan Moore. It's part of Al and his mother Marion's new multimedia project, Alfred Howard Writes. Marion and Al Howard, welcome to Midday Edition.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Now, the song that we just heard, We All Breathe the Same Air, is the first song released for this project. I got to say, I love some of the lines, like 2020 vision is a blinding affliction. And I want to read part of the chorus again. We all breathe the same air. Only love can pull us through the dark. And if it's one, it's everyone. Someone's daughter and someone's son. So Al, first of all, what does this song mean to you?
So this song was a direct response to the lynching of George Floyd and seeing that happen live in the streets in America. And one of the important things about this project to me is, like, I've been in bands for years, and you'll write a song and sometimes it'll take 2 years to get the album out. But this platform and creating music this way allows you to be very reactionary. So something like that can happen, and we were just in shock and awe, and also just numb to it too at the same time, because there's been so much of this kind of violence on Blacks in America.
Maureen, can you describe your painting for this song, We All Breathe the Same Air? It's a kind of wash of color, watercolors you work in, right?
Yes, I do. That was a hard one for me because as a mother to a son who is a young Black man living here in America, it was very heartfelt, if you can understand what I'm saying. It was heavy for me, very, very heavy. It was very emotional. I cried a lot when I heard it, when I heard the words, because it just came to my heart, because all I could imagine is my own son doing the right thing and him being taken from me just like that, you know?
So, Al, if you're writing 2 songs a week, that means that you can respond to what's going on in the news quite in real time.
You know, being able to react to it instantaneously, create a song, have it out as a response 1 week later is a different kind of creativity than I'm used to. But I feel like for me, it's the way forward. You know, art is always reactionary at its best, you know, and there's a lot to be inspired from right now, whether it's like adversely inspired or positively inspired. You know, I always try to find hope in these dark situations.
So, Al, you've been working as a musician for decades, and you're one of San Diego's most prolific musicians, but you were close to quitting music altogether before this project began. What inspired this project?
Well, I've been playing in 8 bands and writing lyrics for 8 bands for a long time, but I've also been struggling with chronic Lyme disease for 24 years. And I was getting to this point in my life where the shows and late nights and the toll that it took on my joints, it just wasn't pleasant anymore. And it started to feel like work. And then during the downtime of pandemic, I sort of got a passion for writing again. And I was trying to figure out a way to involve myself in music without the gigs, but, you know, work with some new people. And then I kind of came up with this idea.
Let's listen to another song from your project now then. This one is called Peace.
Veterans of Civil War, we fought our loves until love was no more. The enemy is at the gate. Don't wanna fight. The hours getting late.
That was Peace, performed by Shelby Bennett vocals, Ian Owen guitar, Daniel Schreier keyboard, with lyrics by Alfred Howard. Well, the two of you are obviously very tuned in anyway, but what would you say working together like this has done for your relationship?
I lived on the East Coast. My son came to the West Coast after he graduated from college. So this gives me a chance to really know the person as a young adult, not a child. Also, to involve myself with him creatively has been really interesting, because a lot of times Alfred and I will sit or we'll talk about something, have a discussion, and we'll say the same thing at the same time, or we'll be thinking about the same thing at the same time, and it just boggles my mind. Just not working with Alfred, but as a mother, and a very, very proud mother, I am so glad that my son is back to writing, because as a creative person, I can't imagine never doing my art. It's just unimaginable. And for me to see Alfred not picking up a pen and putting it to paper to write, it broke my heart. So with this epidemic that we have going on, and that him being closed in for months and me being closed in, I was always going to be able to paint. But when he picked up his pen and started writing and working with this project and shared it with me, I was blown away. And I was like, yes, you really want me to be part of this? Of course I will. You know, no pay. I'm the only one you don't have to pay. I'm a freebie, you know? So this has been very challenging, but very rewarding for me as a mother to see my son create again, and such a nice and a big way. And also a very giving kind of way, because Alfred is not selfish and he's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about all the musicians that can't work right now, and how can I enhance their life? How can I help them? And so, yes, I'm just in awe of what I'm able to do with my son right now.
So, Al, anything to add?
Yeah, you know, especially during the pandemic, like my mom and I, we would get together a few times a week. Sometimes we'd watch a movie, or, you know, we'd go for walks. And, you know, we've both been very careful during the pandemic, and we don't get to share in the same things that we did. But there's different ways to communicate and getting to communicate via this project, I think has been important for both of us. So we're still sharing something that's really significant. And that's been a great and important and needed thing for me in my life. And I hope so for her too.
Well, Marian and Al Howard, thank you so much for joining us on Midday Edition.
Thank you so much for having us.
To hear the full interview, see a video, and learn more about Al and Marian Howard's project, go to kpbs.org/summer music series. We're going out on a song sung by Jen Grinnells, the lyrics by Al Howard. It's called Always on the Run.
Cobblestones and empty streets, Virginia is a memory. I'll trade the vines draped over trees for cactuses and tumbleweeds. They say I have a western heart. Wait until the day turns dark to trace the patterns in the sky till it writes an alibi. I'm always on the run, running towards and never from. I'm always on the run, gotta find that setting sun. Pavement knows the shape I'm in. We speak of places I have been, where the man calls me by name, calls me Santa in a wind. Mercury is on the rise, it's reaching for those open skies. I'm searching for a heart like mine, untamed by the hands of time. I'm always on the run, running towards and never from. I'm always on the run, gotta find that setting sun. I've never held the hands of a cloud, round in their circles like keys to lock, shadow to shadow and day to day, finding my way is my way is my way is my way. I'm always on the run, running towards and never from. I'm always on the run, gotta find that setting. I'm always on the run, running towards and never from. I'm always on the run, gotta find that setting.
Next up, songwriting legend J.J. Cale talks about enjoying music and avoiding the spotlight.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more, Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.
Welcome back to the KPBS Summer Music Series. There are musicians who are world famous, rock stars, pop stars. Everybody knows them. They're legends. But then there are the musicians who are more famous with other musicians than they are with the general public. They're usually called musicians, the artists who the legends and the stars listen to and admire. Every once in a while, one of these musicians breaks through to become a musical legend in his own right. And that just about describes the story of singer-songwriter J.J. Cale. He gained fame in the 1970s because superstar Eric Clapton recorded two of his songs, After Midnight and Cocaine, and made them rock classics.
After midnight, we gon' let it all hang out. If you wanna hang out, you got to take her out. Cocaine.
But it wasn't only Clapton who caught Cale's Tulsa sound fever. Artists like Neil Young, Brian Ferry, and Lynyrd Skynyrd all covered J.J. Cale's songs. Eric Clapton and J.J. Cale collaborated again on their 2006 album, Road to Escondido, a reference describing Valley Center Road, which at the time connected Clapton's Escondido home with J.J. Cale's Valley Center studio. In 2009, J.J. Cale released his album, Roll On, and was gracious enough to sit down with Maureen Cavanaugh to talk about his life and career in music. J.J. Cale died in 2013 at age 74, but his music lives on, and his life continues to inspire musicians. Here's Maureen Cavanaugh talking with the late, great J.J. Cale.
I want to start off by talking about your new album, Roll On, and it's your 16th album, 12 new songs, including some jazz scatting. Now, that's a new one for J.J. Cale. That's a song called Who Knew. Did you have fun with that?
Yes, I did. I generally, I don't really scat. I'm basically a songwriter, so you need little lyrics that rhyme and stuff. And I got into that and decided that, hey, well, that's something kind of semi-new for me. It's not new. Ella Fitzgerald was probably the most famous scat singer. Louis Armstrong and a lot of other people. Yeah, I went, oh, that's kind of fun to do. I can scat and I don't have to sit around and write, dumb poems and stuff. And yeah, it made me laugh when I got through. Blank stares everywhere. Tough luck man, who cares? Who knows?
Now, what was the inspiration for this new album? Did you want to try new things like that?
No, I approached all my albums just about the same. This was, number 16. The management was hey, John, why don't you make another record? And I go, ain't nobody wants to hear, I've already did. I have a hard time with not trying to imitate myself. After you made so many records or you wrote so many songs, pretty soon, your songs all start sounding. You start sounding like a song you'd already written 10 years ago or 15 years ago. That's kind of what's rough about making a new album at my age, and as long as I've been in the business or the music kind of a thing, is to keep from imitating myself. So I have to listen to it and go, that sounds like a song that was on my third album. That's kind of rough. I guess I semi-pulled that off. You can probably bust me on a couple of songs. But there was no particular inspiration. I'm always writing songs just to entertain myself.
And your process of writing songs, your process of recording, has that changed much over the years?
Yeah, I'm probably 3/4 of the songs I've written. That's the wrong way to say that, isn't it? 3/4 of the songs that I've made is been done in a recording studio environment with the recording studio techniques, with recording studio tricks that you can do. Everybody does that now. And then I still write some songs, just pick up the old acoustic guitar and, mumble something into a microphone. I play a little more piano than I used to. But basically, I just, play the guitar and sing. And sometimes, most of the time, nothing comes out. And then every once in a while it does, and that's generally the ones I put in and stick on an album and try to get other people to like it.
But, it's been said that you kind of craft your own J.J. Cale style. I mean, you engineer and produce a lot of your music. Is that part of it that you really enjoy, putting those pieces together?
Yeah, I'm starting to slowly tire of that technique. I generally now write songs with just a guitar because it's much simpler than, manipulating all these things and playing half a dozen instruments and stuff. But basically, I've really enjoyed. I always had a passion for the recording studio. I made my living as an engineer for a long time. So I love all the new gizmos that they have to make your voice sound weird or your guitar sound funny or whatever. And I always enjoyed manipulating the knobs and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the songs I've written were I would probably not have wrote it if I was not in a recording studio. So that was probably my main tool of choice. My main instrument was the recording studio. And then just writing with acoustic guitar and getting people to play along with you and overdubbing and adding the tricks. It's kind of the way I've done it, basically, for the last 30, 40 years.
And do you have a home studio up in Valley Center now?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's just, it just takes up a lot of the room in the living room. It's, boy, you have a big high-fi, is what people say. And, of course, that's how I make my living, is recording studio stuff. And, everywhere I've lived, I lived in trailers up in Anaheim around Disneyland for 10 years, older in the 80s. I had a recording studio in my trailer. And I've had various and sundry houses. I had a house in Nashville, had a recording studio there. I also rent real respectable big-time recording studios. I don't always make all the stuff at home, but I do that. Everybody kind of has a studio now because you can now buy a little bitty recording studio that's about as big as a big book for $250.
That's true. Do you enjoy working with the new technology?
Yeah, I do. I miss the old. I come up with those great big old analog tape machines. I learned how to work on them. I spent most of my time not making music, but keeping those old recorders running. I love the old analog sound. The new digital sound doesn't sound quite like the old analog, even though it's better in a whole lot of respects. And so I had to train myself when the digital revolution come along, from going from the old analog recorders. The thing that's nice about the digital recorders, I didn't have to spend a lot of time on maintenance on the old analog stuff. I spent at least 3 or 4 hours a day maintaining the equipment where when we did play, it sounded good. The new digital stuff either works or it don't. If it don't work, you just kind of throw it away.
Throw it away, right. I'm speaking with legendary singer, songwriter, musician, producer, J.J. Cale. And I want to spend just a minute or two talking about your musical influences, if I can. Who were some of your musical inspirations growing up?
Well, early on, when rock and roll come in, I was, a teenager. Fats Domino, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley. I was, 17 years old at that time. I was a teenager, and that was, the music of all us teenagers. So those were the early influences. Then I started playing music, so I backed up singers, and I just played the guitar. I didn't sing or anything. So I'd have to learn the guitar parts and all that stuff. And those were the guitar players in that era were influenced on my guitar. Lately, it's I'm a big fan of Mose Allison, a big fan of Clarence McGate Brown, which are not top 40 kind of guys. Yeah. But I really enjoyed those two people, and some of the early rock and roll people, and then some of the young kids that are doing it now are they're not an influence on me, but I mean they've taken music to a whole nother level.
Now you're from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You would imagine that maybe you'd gravitate towards country music, but you gravitated toward rock and roll. I'm wondering why.
Well, because I was a teenager, and the old people liked country music, Ironically, I'm an old people now. But, when you're 17 years old and rock and roll come in, I mean, the adults really didn't care anything about rock and roll, not really. And so I'm a victim of my generation on how I play music. That influenced me a lot, and I could actually do that. Pop music was a whole nother thing and I was a guitar player, and guitar has been very prominent in the evolution of rock and roll. Even to today, every other person on the planet plays a guitar. So rock and roll was a big influence on me, and it's because of my age. I was teenager, and rock and roll that's what that music was about and for.
Now, your musical friendship with Eric Clapton is legendary. It started with Clapton recording your song After Midnight and then Cocaine. Why do you think you guys work so well together?
Well, I don't know. Eric liked those songs, and I liked Eric. You know, my songs were kind of demo-ish, and Eric kind of made them a little more accessible to a much larger audience. We really didn't get to hang out together till we made this Escondido album. We had seen each other off and on a couple of times through the last 30 years or so, but really didn't hang out too much together. On the Escondido album, I think it took us a month to make that album. We were around each other every day. We got to actually know each other real well. We've become close friends. Yes.
Floating down that old river, boy, all my worries far behind. Floating down that old river, boy, leave old memories way behind. Yesterday slowly fading, all my life I've been waiting for this time.
And your first Grammy is from the Road to Escondido album that you made with Clapton.
You can blame that on Eric. You know, I didn't really want any more notoriety. I just wanted, the songwriting kind of thing. And I mean, he's so talented. Everything he's around or touches and stuff gets into that, either large sales or awards and that kind of thing. And it was really nice after doing it for years, but we'll blame that on him.
Okay, we'll blame it on him. I have to mention another really large song, another song everybody knows, Call Me the Breeze. It's been recorded by many artists over the years. I think Lynyrd Skynyrd's version is really the most famous. What is it like to hear your other artists interpret your songs?
Well, that's the biggest form of flattery that there is. When you're a songwriter, you basically first write songs to entertain yourself, and then second, you hope somebody else will hear it and like it. And when somebody else cuts I've recorded a lot of songs that nobody cut. I liked my own song. Nobody cared anything about it. The thing that's really knocks you out is when somebody actually takes enough time to record your song and make it. That number one, they had to listen to it. Number one, that's hard to get somebody to listen to somebody else's music. And then they recorded it. That's really a feather, as they say, a feather in your cap, or boosts your ego. That's worth more to me than the actual money.
Are there any particular artists that you've heard your songs recorded by and you said, wow, I really like what they did with that?
One of my favorite cuts was a lady named Randy Crawford. She cut a song I wrote called Cajun Moon. I think she, the first person to cut that after I'd recorded it was Cissy Houston, which is Whitney's mother. Which Cissy was a background singer for Elvis Presley. And some guy, Herbie Mann, I think, recorded an album, and he got Cissy to sing on it. And Cissy sang on the thing, and that was quite a few years ago. Then the next person that cut that same song, a song called Cajun Moon, was Maria Mulder. She had a real nice version of it. And then I was sitting in a movie theater one day, and in between the movies, they played music through the speakers while people were walking in and out. Her version come on, and I went, oh, that's my song. Who is that? I found out it was Randy Crawford. It's really a nice version.
'Cause Cajun Moon took him from you. Cajun Moon, where does your power lie? As you move across the southern sky, you took my baby way too soon. What have you done, Cajun Moon?
When did you move to San Diego County?
I've been down here about 20 years now.
And why?
I lived in L.A. I lived in L.A. in the 60s. And in the 70s, I moved to Nashville. Made records in Nashville. And I lived in Nashville all during the 70s. And then I got tired of Nashville and decided I'd like to come back out to the West Coast. I really liked it when it was the 60s. So I come back out here 1980. Loaded up all the things, sold my house, and moved back to. And I decided I'd just live in trailers. And I'd bought me a trailer, and so I lived in L.A. all during the 80s, mainly in Anaheim, in a trailer. And then about 1989, I decided that I'd had it with L.A., all the traffic and everything. So I started looking for a house, and I was starting to come down. I'd get down into lower southern Orange County, and eventually got on down in here and discovered that house that I bought. It's about 10 miles north of Escondido, and I bought me a house there, and that's the first house I'd lived in. I've been living in trailers up in Anaheim. First house, got a lawn and a lawnmower and a weed eater, and pay rent. Pay bills and all that stuff. And living in a trailer, you don't do any of that kind of stuff. So what was really nice, I could have all my recording equipment. I could spread it out. I just didn't have to have it in a little trailer. So I moved down here, and then the weather's nice down here. Weather's about the same in L.A. too, but L.A.'s totally different kind of a vibe. And I'm out in the boonies, the nearest house is way over there. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of boring sometimes. I miss the neon. I'm an old nightclub guitar player. So I miss the neon, but not so much that I moved back into the city. So I'm in Southern California, north of Escondido, and I've been down there. I think I bought that house in 1989. So what's this, 2009?
Right.
So it's 20 years.
You are amazing people all over the listening area with that recantation of you've been living in trailers and so forth. We hear about rock and roll stars living in mansions, multiple houses around the world, buying their own island. And here's J.J. Cale living in a series of trailers. What's that about?
Well, I enjoyed that. I've always been a motorhome trailer life kind of guy. I'm a gypsy. I'm not now. I'm too old to move very far. But I've always been kind of a musician. Kind of has to keep on the go. You can't just stay in one place. You can, but if you do, you starve. And I was always, going to Nashville and touring. Is a very mobile kind of a thing. And I was always into trailers and motorhomes and that kind of thing. I just liked that lifestyle. I was just most people get into it after they retire and they're old. I got into it before I retired. I'm kind of at the age now. Ironically, I'm not living in a motorhome or a trailer or doing that kind of thing that retirees do. I was doing it before I retired. So I kind of had it backwards. And but I enjoyed that. I love having no phone. Because people call me, want me to work, want me to go play gigs, make another record, write another song. And some days I didn't feel like doing that, so I didn't have that problem. There's no bills. You just pay the trailer people a certain amount of money. Or you can stay in, parks and that kind of stuff. I love that. Still do. I don't do that anymore, but I really like to do that.
Like a lot of your contemporaries, are rock and roll superstars and live the lifestyle. And you've already managed to keep off that mainstream radar. In fact, you don't even like to have your pictures on your albums.
Well, they're on there now. For years we didn't. I've kind of let the hype kind of get a little bigger than it used to be.
There's just one eye sticking out. There's not a whole face.
You're right. Well, I was just, I'm basically a songwriter. I make my living writing songs. And I'm not a showbiz kind of a guy, and so that worked out really good. You don't really need a lot of hype and be famous to sell songs. Now you do to sell music. So, but I was always trying to get other people to record my songs, and that way I could stay at home and they could do the tour and make the records and do the interviews and be on TV and all that kind of stuff. I was always considered myself a background type of person. It's kind of gotten out of hand here lately. I'm, kind of a little more well known than I used to be. But I like that. I wanted to be part of the thing. I didn't really want to be the thing, and I've kind of done that. I'm a little now. I go play my gigs, and it's J.J. Cale, and I'm almost somebody. I was kind of uncomfortable with that. I love the, hey, well, I'm part of the group. And when I go play out and play gigs, and I don't play that many gigs, I'm it.
Well, you have done some touring around this new album, Roll On, and I'm wondering, is this for you or is it for the fans?
It's probably mainly for the record company. The record company likes you to, when you put out a record, if nobody knows that you've put out a record, of course the record don't sell. Well, if I spend all that time making the record, then I go, well, it doesn't change my life or make any difference to me, really, because I make my living mainly off other people singing my songs. But I had, they want you to do a little bit of promotion, and so I've done that. I'm not real crazy about that. I do like to get out and play every once in a while, but as the years go by, it becomes less and less. This last tour I did was a West Coast tour. I played from San Diego all the way up to Vancouver and all the towns in between to promote the album. I played 16 one-nighters and took a band with me and a roadie and a bus driver, and we stayed in Holiday Inns and the whole deal. It's fun for about 3 days. The reason it's fun is because it's fresh. Then after about the fourth, fifth day, you're doing the same songs again, and you've already told all the jokes on the bus. All the guys all have already did all that, and then it becomes a day job. And that's kind of what all us musicians get into music for, so we don't have to have a day job. But if you become successful, ironically, you end up with a day job. Now, if you're not successful, it'll always stay fun. But if you're successful, there's some business to take care of, and that becomes a day job.
It's still fun, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's still
J.J. Cale, thank you so much for talking with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Roll on, just keep rolling on. Roll on, just keep rolling on. We can play just a little bit of red girl, kick us rhythm and blues. What you call it, boogie boogie, but that's all for sure. Roll on, just keep rolling on. Roll on, just keep rolling on. Well, there ain't nothing to it, ain't nothing to it, ain't nothing to it at all. Just a little bit of rhythm and blues, rock and roll. Roll on, just keep rolling on. Roll on, just keep rolling on. I think what we need is a drum roll. I think what we need is a beat. You can't stand still, you gotta move your feet. Roll on, just keep rolling on. Roll on, just keep rolling on.
Thanks for listening to the KPBS Summer Music Series. To catch a new episode every 2 weeks, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. And for performance videos and more great artists, visit kpbs.org/Summer Music Series. John Decker is Interim Associate General Manager of Content, Lisa Jane Morissette, Operations Manager, and Megan Burke is Senior Producer. I'm Kurt Kohnen.
Roll on, just keep rolling on.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more, Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.